Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Spider-Man figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look at Miles Morales based off his appearance in Spider-Man 2. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Hot Toys review goes live on the channel. Before we begin, I just quickly want to make mention of the fact that normally this doesn't happen. Normally we don't get characters from games right after the games have actually released. Usually we get the game, then 1 or 2 years pass, and then we get the figures. Going with an exclusive limited run for Peter and Miles seemed like an odd choice, but now I get it. They wanted to have these figures already produced and ready to go when pre-order went live. So as soon as the game drops, they could drop the figures. Up front, we do have an image of Miles doing a web thwip and a Venom strike punch, Spider-Man 2 up top, a Hot Toys exclusive sticker, some glossy symbiote tendrils off to one side, and a Hot Toys logo down below. I just hope that everyone who wanted Peter and Miles was able to get them. On the side of the box, we have this dot matrix pattern of sorts in the background, as well as more of this symbiote goo working its way towards Miles. Back here, there's a lot more symbiote. You can see it up top and down the bottom, and it's raised on the surface. You can feel it sitting proud of this more gradiented red background, done in a satin finish. We also have some warnings and legal information. That's not it for the box art. There is a little bit more tucked up underneath this slipcover. Around the back, around the front, we've got an open window showcasing Miles and all of his accessories. Then on said open window, just down here in the corner, a little bit more symbiote goodness. On the side, we have this spider symbol just fading into the background. Then around the back, this super bright orange text. An odd choice, I do like it though, especially this panel in the corner with 1/6 scale collectible figure on it. They've even added this dot pattern on the surface, making it look a little bit comic booky. A lot of people grabbed Peter, but they were skipping Miles. And I get it, the suit is pretty similar to what he was wearing in the standalone Miles Morales spin-off. That's what we're here to find out though. Is this suit different enough to warrant picking it up if you already have that version? First in-hand impressions? So far so good, and I am noticing some significant differences. What we are going to do now though is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base, which is done in the hexagonal style, so it is in keeping with the rest of the Spider-Man video game line. The background is done in this textured finish, whereas the spider symbol, the side bits, and the Spider-Man 2 logo, that's all high gloss, so it does stand out against the matte textured surface for the top. Around the front for the nameplate, it says upgraded suit. I would have preferred if it said Miles upgraded suit, just so you know that this display base is specific to Miles. I do really like this translucent red edge though, a nice touch. The flight pole up on top is articulated so you can bend it, get dynamic with it, and we do have a spring-loaded waist clamp. Do be careful with these, because there is only a little bit of foam padding and there's a lot of pressure from the spring, so they do tend to dig into superhero suits over time. We do get some new effect pieces. They've also taken some away. No longer do we have the Venom strike effects that we got last time, done in this orangish yellow translucent plastic. I like these, the color is awesome, they're translucent enough that the light passes through and there's this pearlescent sheen over the top. I just would have liked to have seen the Venom strike stuff as well. Yes, I get it, these are specific to Spider-Man 2, so throw in the new effects. Just include all of the stuff that we got with the previous version, especially if it's still game accurate, which it is. Speaking of not including stuff we got last time, we only get one interchangeable set of lenses, so 2 pairs in total. Previously, we had a whole bunch of them. We could mix and match, we could change the expressions, whereas this time, it's the squinted lenses or the fully wide open ones. Okay, so it's not all bad news. We are getting a bunch of new web effect pieces, and these are a massive upgrade compared to what we've been getting for years at this point. Ever since the first Hot Toys Spider-Man, they have given us the same exact webs just over and over again. Not anymore. Finally, they've upgraded them. This one has this nice flow to it. It's got this strand hanging down the bottom, and we've got these loops all the way down the web. It's also painted in matte white, which I like. Then we have more of a straight web, although I'm not sure if it'll hold its shape over time. It doesn't seem like it's going to droop down, so we'll have to wait and see. It is at much more of an angle, so it's meant for a web swinging pose. Whereas these two, they're meant to be plugged into his palms with this little spike down below. It looks like a burst that's been shot out of the web shooters. And they're meant to be posed as though he's web whipping someone. There's this twine-like texture to it, how it's wound up around itself. This one has more of a rounded tip. Whereas this one, it's a bit more spiky. This, I think, would be the one that I would use if I was going to do a web whipping pose. Although I am tempted to use the triple web, this one is quite game specific. I know that MCU Spidey also has various web shooter modes, but the triple web I think works more for the video game Spideys. This also plugs into his web shooter, it has the spiky tips, there are 3 strands, and it's self-supporting. Because these strands are crossing over in the middle, it holds its structure. I don't think this is going to sag. This one, the spooled up web, another nice option. This can be used for web swinging or to have it look like Spidey has webbed up someone, a villain of some sort, in the display. And lastly, a full array of hands, ranging from web whipping hands to open palm hands to wall crawling hands, as well as closed fists that also double as web swinging hands. Very clever putting the hole there. It's subtle enough that you won't usually see it, and it works for both web swinging and mid-action closed fist poses, so I'm totally fine with that. On the back of the hands, we have these armored panels this time with this very subtle geometric detail on the surface. The fingers also look like they're armored. Now, compared to the hands that we got last time for Miles, these fingers looked a bit strange, especially with the indented web lines. His fingers looked way too skinny. I much prefer the new hands, and the fingers are slightly longer, which makes him look a little bit lankier when you see the hands in proportion to the rest of the body. Now, if you're wondering how you install the web lines into the hands, it's quite straightforward. You just want to remove this panel on the inside of the palm. Just be careful because the little peg ports do feel slightly fragile. Now, you can see that there are 2 ports that this thing plugs into. You push it in place, and the hand is slightly soft and rubbery, so when you push it in there, the material does contract around it, keeping it in place very securely. If you do want to attach one of the web lines, you literally just plug it into the port. The only complaint I have about this is I like to get slightly stylized with my web whipping poses. Usually I want to angle the hand down and have the web coming out at an angle compared to the hand. Whereas with this new design, it's got to follow the trajectory of the hand. So if you have the hand pointing down, the web line will be pointing down as well. I hope that makes sense. What we are going to do now, though, is get Miles himself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. Wow. Okay, so first impressions were good. I was still a little bit worried that he was going to be too similar to the first version to actually impress me. That's not the case. He has impressed me for 3 reasons. Number 1, there's more red on the suit. Number 2, there's more detail on the suit. And number 3, proportions. He is now taller and he is now lankier. It almost looks like they took Miles from the first game and just stretched him out a little. That's game accurate. Miles is a high schooler. He's still growing into his frame. He does look a little bit string bean-esque, tall and lanky, so these proportions are spot on, in my opinion. He fills out the suit where he needs to, the musculature is well defined, and I cannot get over the metallic red against the more matte textured black sections. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Miles' head sculpt. Not including an unmasked head sculpt at this point in the game, given how many suits we already have for him, just feels a bit weird. People would have picked up this new release for that unmasked head sculpt alone. That way we could have used it on the new figure or any of the previously released Miles, like the Bodega Cat suit for example. There is a third-party option, and we will be trying it out in just a second. Now, the mask head sculpt, the shape looks accurate to me. You can see his nose sticking through and his ears around the sides. There's a lot of texture for the black sections. And you've got the metallic red raised web lines on the surface. Now, the color and sheen match between the sculpted plastic head and the rubbery bodysuit is close, but it's not perfect. There is a subtle difference. The lenses do have that honeycomb pattern over the top, and they're interchangeable. You don't quite get as many options as we did last time, although you can mix and match, so if you do want to have him squinting, that is totally doable. Or if you have the previously released Miles, the good thing is this head sculpt is the same, so you can actually use all of the previous Miles lenses as well. And I'd even go so far as to say that the previous lenses do look a little bit better than these new ones. You have this shading around the edge, and the red is properly shiny and metallic. Whereas with the new ones, they're a little bit flatter for some reason. Now, like I said, unmasked head sculpt, let's give it a go. You know what? I actually really like this, especially with the round code cover neck skin. That blend between the sculpt and the body is nice and seamless. It's not perfect, however. The likeness is slightly off, especially considering that this is technically based off the first game rather than Spider-Man 2. I like the expression. He's got the furrowed brow, making him look mean or determined depending on the angle of the sculpt. There's skin texture, and there's a lot of detail for the hair. Although this hairpiece isn't included with this sculpt. This is actually how it comes out of the box. This hairpiece is from a Young Rich Toys Killmonger. I dremeled out the inside, I stuck some blue tack in there, and now he has his braids from the second game. And they're fully adjustable or removable, so if I did want to mix and match where I use this head sculpt, then yes, I can just take this off if I so choose. It's just a nice option to have. I'm not sure where you'll be able to get it nowadays though, you might have to hunt around a little. Back here you can see the web lines match up with the mask perfectly if you have everything sitting square. If you don't, then maybe not so much, you'll just have to adjust it. Then you have these red panels meeting at the tips of these spider legs. The spider symbol itself is a super unique design, and it's nice and glossy, and there's this triangular geometric pattern on the surface. You've got some musculature back here with this rubberized padding, and a whole bunch of different textures and sheens at play. We've got some glossy black panels, more matte sections, and also just all this cross-hatching. It's a pretty complicated, busy design, yet I think Hot Toys nailed this in 1/6 scale. Nailing it meant that they did have to make the suit out of that rubbery material, as usual when it comes to the video game Spidey figures. Just capturing all of this stuff, all the intricate little bits and pieces, the only way to do that is with this rubbery material, so that you can bake the detail into the surface. If this was all screen printing, it would have been next to impossible to get this to look and feel as good as it does. You have some padding for his pecs, and you can see his well-defined abs poking through. The web lines do help with that. And they've made significant changes versus the first version. The top part is similar, but down below and on the sides, it's completely different. The belt now comes to a V-taper, and all of this cross-hatching stuff, this glossy overlay, just wasn't there with the original. Same thing with the red working its way down his arms and the red panels on his hands. All of this stuff is new. There is significantly more red this time round, and it just helps him absolutely pop in the display. Same thing with all this stuff down the side of the legs, the lines, and on the inside of the calves down here. It almost reminds me of the upgraded suit from the MCU. You also have these diamond patterns for his kneecaps, and they're high gloss so they stand out. Then down below for his shoes, they are no longer separate sneakers. Now it's integrated into his suit just like Peter. And you can bet that we're going to be discussing this little bump in the pros and cons segment. They have added these almost rubbery plastic soles underneath that are done in high gloss red, which is different to the previous version. And there's some sculpted detail underneath. Before we move on, I very quickly want to try out one of the new web effects. I have switched out the panel on his web shooting palm hand, and now we want to bring in one of the web effects. I've decided to go with the triple web just because it's super dynamic. You do want to make sure that it's lined up with the web shooter, which is pretty easy to do because the web shooters themselves are adjustable. When you plug it into his hand, this looks sick. I am totally considering displaying him like this permanently in the collection. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left, the new Miles, and on the right, the original version. Some people might be still sitting here thinking, hang on a second, they're the same thing, right? Actually, no. When we zoom in for a much closer up comparison, that's when you'll be able to pixel peep and more easily spot the differences between both of them. Zoomed out, you can clearly see the new one is taller. And thank goodness Hot Toys did that, because Miles did grow in between games. They actually made a couple of jokes about it in Spider-Man 2. So it's accurate that the new one is ever so slightly taller. This isn't quite as accurate. Believe it or not, in Spider-Man 2, Miles is taller than Peter. Maybe Hot Toys thought that it would have been too big of a jump to go from a really short Miles to a super tall one, and I get that. They wanted to split the difference and try and find a good middle ground. I would have preferred if it was properly game accurate and that Miles was significantly taller. Not a massive deal though. These two still look bloody beautiful standing side by side. The Advanced Suit 1.0 for Peter is still one of Hot Toys' best figures in the Spider-Man video game line. He too is a little bit taller than Miles. This guy's a pretty underrated figure in my opinion. It's the 2020 Suit Miles. He's a little bit taller than this new guy, which is not what I was expecting at all. I think that comes down to the extra height from his high tops perhaps, and his larger, longer, glossy Daft Punk style helmet. Yeah, still one of my favourite Miles figures, the Bodega Cat suit. He got a mention earlier, so I thought, yeah, why not? Let's just bring him on out here. He's pretty much the exact same height as this new Miles. But he is wearing high tops. They almost look a little bit like Chuck's. I could be wrong on that. The reason why I like him so much is because he's different. He's got Spider-Man the Cat on his shoulder. He's got this very comic book style head sculpt. And you have the addition of the hoodie, which gives me Scarlet Spider vibes, yet a little bit different at the same time. I want to try and make sure that I'm getting a good cross-section of all of the different Spidey comparisons y'all would be after. So here is Integrated Suit Spidey, just in case you wanted to have this version of Miles as your future MCU Miles in the display. He is taller than Integrated Suit Spidey, which I do like. Now the height difference is getting closer to being accurate. For a much closer up comparison, there aren't many things that I prefer on the original, so we may as well talk about them first. Number one, the more metallic lenses, and number two, the separate sneakers. The reason I prefer them is because there's no ugly bunching at the ankles with the original. Everything else I prefer with the new one. The tighter pattern for the red on the chest, the red stripes going down his arms and the panels on the back of his hands, and the redesigned belt area. Plus all of the additional detail on his chest, on his arms, on his legs, and around the back. The spider symbol does look similar, yet the lines up here on the top going over the shoulders are also tighter on the new one. Overall, the new one just comes across more streamlined. Going over Miles' articulation, starting off with his head sculpt, which is on a double ball peg and an articulated neck. Looking forward to there, looking up to there, more than enough range for a web swinging pose. Swivel and pivot side to side. The arms are on ratchets, going up to there, and going really nice and flush down by the sides of his body. Butterfly joint at the shoulders that also hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, and then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. The torso crunches forward to there, going back quite far actually, swivel and pivot side to side. The legs being on ratchets are quite sturdy. They are softer ratchets than the shoulders, however, going forward to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh, double bend at the knee going past 90, and lastly for the ankles, double ball pegs. Good for forward and back, swivel, as well as heaps of ankle tilt. And you also get some ratcheted toe articulation. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is they still can't quite get the ankles right. As you can see, there is some bunching. The suit material tucks into the joint, looking all kinds of nasty. And if you leave it like this for a long period of time and then you start to want to articulate it and hinge it down, I wouldn't be surprised if this rubbery material has stuck to itself inside the joint. The second annoying thing is they know full well that we cannot leave Miles in a crazy pose. In fact, the instructions specifically warn against it. But they still persist and only include a dynamic flight pole with a waist clamp. I would prefer to see if a display base is compatible with a crotch grabber, because sometimes we just want to have our characters standing there every so often. Just include a crotch grabber as well. Why not throw in both options? The third annoying thing is we don't get anywhere near as many accessories as we did last time with Miles from the Spider-Man Miles Morales game. We got the interchangeable outfit pieces to literally create a second suit. We got the backpack with Spider-Man the cat. We also got way more interchangeable lenses and the Venom lightning accessories. Whereas this time, it just feels more bare bones. The first cool thing has got to be the new web effect pieces. These are genuinely a massive upgrade over what we've been getting for years, I might add. And the best part is, you get a bunch of them. So now you can accessory share. You can give these new web effect pieces to Spidey figures that are already in your collection. The second cool thing is they didn't cheap out and just use the same body. They upgraded it. It's taller, it's lankier, and it's game accurate. Miles did grow between the two games, so I'm glad they upgraded the body. The third cool thing is, so you know how this new Miles only comes with 2 sets of lenses, squinted and fully wide open? Well, if you own the original Miles, then his lenses are fully compatible. So if you did have a specific combination in mind that doesn't come with this new guy, you can just pop the old lenses right on in there. And I'd even go so far as to say the metallic sheen on these original lenses do look better than the more flat red for the new ones. Wrapping up on upgraded suit Miles from the Spider-Man 2 game on PS5. This guy is far from perfect, unfortunately. You're missing out on the web wings, no unmasked head sculpt, no backpack, no Spider-Man the cat, fewer lenses this time round, and no Venom strike effects. Does that mean he's not a good release? No, he's a very good release. I'm still really happy with the figure himself. I understand some people collect figures specifically for accessories, and you'll may be disappointed with this release. I'm not. I collect figures for the figures themselves. There is enough here for me to work with, and because I own the previous version of Miles and all the other variants, I can now accessory share. So if I did want to use some of the alternative lenses, I can do that. If I wanted to use the Venom strike effects from the first release, totally doable. Or if you wanted to go ahead and use the new blue lightning effect pieces with the original figure, you can do that as well. That's the best part about building a collection of figures from the same universe. Accessory sharing is awesome. I still really would have liked to have seen those web wings though. And an unmasked head sculpt, maybe in the future with more Spider-Man 2 releases. Overall, still very happy, love the suit, love the proportions, and the new tall, lankier body. Compared to the original one, there are enough differences here that I do think it's worth picking up another Miles. It's the main suit from the new game. How could you not want to pick this up? At least that's how I approached it when Hot Toys put this guy up for pre-order. Same thing with Peter in his Advanced Suit 2.0. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.